right there in the middle. Because when you're in the middle, that's when you can basically delineate, oh, that's some bullshit. No, this is some real shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can just use your discernment, because when you're able to tap into your true spiritual energy by using your emotions as a navigation system, that's when you're able to use your intuition. Because you're not, you're not biased on anything. You're not Democrat, Republican. You're not, positive or negative, happy, sad. You right there. You're content. Second. We're going to wait till we get a few more people in the chat. Wait till we hit about 250 until we start the demonstration. But this transmission is basically dedicated to the gathering of the masters, which was basically a small fraction of the galvanization of the 144,000. So a lot of people who went to the event, they had a really good experience, and the great majority of the experience, it was kind of like one of those things where you had the great majority of people from the whole infrastructure of the conscious community, and we were just all in one big lump sum in one big event, and it turned out to be great. You had me, KT, the Arch Degree, Asir Ducateers. You had Black Dot. You had Professor Griff. You had the great majority of everybody that basically drops the gems when it comes to this Great Awakening process. So shout out to Brother Rich. He did his thing with that whole event. And in my opinion, I think he should, take that event and do it on the West Coast, do one on the South, do one in the Midwest, and do one out up north on the East Coast. So we also going to get into some Q&A. And me and Rod Hayes, we have a demonstration that's coming up, and we're going to be talking about the conjuration process of blood magic and how it's tied and connected to the infrastructure of the socio-political aspect of civics. When you're talking about Babylonian blood magic and Babylonian sex magic, Babylonian money magic. So we're going to be talking about that. Me and Rod Hayes got a lot of receipts that basically propagates the intrinsic information. So we're going to wait till we get some more people in before we start out. We're going to wait till we hit about 500. So if you will, share the live on whatever social media platform that you got. That way, we can get the edification out. And we're also going to be talking about do a lot of Q&A. And the reason I don't, a lot of people have been asking me why I don't have my original backdrop is because I'm getting some electrical work done in my house. So right now I'm going to be down, doing stuff in the front room and stuff and things of that nature. But yes, me and Rod Hayes definitely got something going on coming up in the near future. Next Thursday, we're going to do a broadcast. We're going to be talking about many different things when it comes to this Great Awakening process, because a lot of people are very much confused when it comes to the political infrastructure. We're going to be talking about the whole process of the restoration of the matriarch, and we're going to show publications and documents that basically supports that claim. So, like I said, man, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. Hold on for a second. And I might put some people up here, to ask questions. I'm not sure. I might just keep it on the autonomous level. But when we get to the Q&A, the first questions that's going to be asked is the private chats or the super chats. Those are the first ones that's going to be mandated. But yeah, gathering of masses, very good turnout. I had a good time, and it was one of those things. I've never been to a big event like that when it came to the conscious community, and that whole process in itself was I was overstimulated, because not in a bad way or a negative way. I'm just saying I was overstimulated because I wasn't, I was surprised on how many people showed up to the whole gathering. And it was one of those things where a lot of people, you got to experience that whole event that took place. It was something magical. It was something very intrinsic. It was something very revolutionary that took place. And the energy, you know what I'm saying? It had like a Wakanda energy to it. You know what I'm saying? So it was a very good turnout. Very good turnout. So when you're talking about the context of so-called Black excellence, that was basically the precursor to that, of what you've seen at Black Wall Street at the Gathering of the Masses in Atlanta, Georgia. It was phenomenal. It was a very good turnout. We had people coming from everywhere. You had a guy, he flew in from Iraq. You had people from Utah. You had people who drove all the way from, you know, back home in New York City. You had people from Chicago, Detroit. You had people from everywhere. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, this Great Awakening process, you know, what took place was not a coincidence. The Lionsgate portal had just opened up, and the Lionsgate portal was open until August 15th or the 17th, I believe. So it was not a coincidence that that energy portal pulled in all this, you know, this intrinsic vibration and put everybody in one landmass. So it was very powerful, very powerful. You had Queen Afua, you had Sister Myra Moss, you had Soleil, you had a lot of people there that was, you know, propagating the knowledge for years. So it feels very good to be included with those individuals when it comes to the Gathering of the Masses. I think the last one was in 2018, and they also have, you can look up some of the ones in the past. They had the ones with Bobby Hemmett. It was some that was also, I think Dr. Khalid Muhammad was also a part of the Gathering of the Masters. So like I said, it was a very good turnout. And for me, like I said, I'm very introverted. So it's one of those things where, you know, when it comes to events like that, like I said, I was very much overstimulated, but in a good way. So, and me and Yaki Awakening, me and him, we have a demonstration and a transmission we're going to be putting together here pretty soon. And I talked to him not too long ago after the Gathering of the Masses. So me and Yaki, we got something coming up pretty soon. Me and Rod Hayes, we got something dropping next Thursday. Some heavy receipts talking about the blood oath secrecy in the Draconian Constitution on how they propagate Babylonian blood magic within the infrastructure of their political system, and how they use those organizations to extract the energy of the chosen people on the planet. But yeah, we can get into some Q&A, man. Like I said, first questions that's going to be asked are the ones that send in super chats. Okay, we got one right here. How are you preparing for the deities to surface? Like I said, when you get into the whole aspect of the Christ consciousness, they said that the chosen ones is going to have a seal on their forehead, right? And that's basically the embodiment of the activation of a scroll of all. The scroll of all is your chakra system. So when you unlock the seventh seal within you, these entities that live in the lower fourth dimension that don't take corporeal form, they won't be able to attack you because you have that Christ energy. You have the Christ consciousness, right? And I believe it's in Revelations. It doesn't talk about the return of the so-called Jesus, the return of the Christ energy. So when you tap into that interstellar gateway of the halls of Amenti and you do your shadow work and you tap into the process of self-realization, that's when you're able to embark upon those frequencies to where nothing can infiltrate your cipher because you'll be spiritually protected, basically. That's what it's all about. So you got to level up from a mental standpoint. And a lot of people, when it comes to the conscious community, a lot of people get this whole perception and this ideology that everything has to just be so spiritual. Like I said, it's not all about crystals and head wraps and the aesthetic of looking spiritual. It's one of those things where you have to, this is what I call the level up. When you're going through that process of leveling up on a physical level, I call it the prison mindset. So sometimes you got to use the matrix in order to get out, because it's all based upon the fact that you have to go through this process of solitude, and solitude puts you in a state of tunnel vision. Tunnel vision is the interstellar portal that helps you get to the gateway of your level up. So you got to activate that prison mentality in a form of liberation, meaning that you have to lock yourself down and be grounded to where you basically create this process on how, when you studying, just like when people in jail, they get to studying and they work on themselves, they work on their body. You got to create that form of equilibrium, because like I said, if you work out more than you read, you still out of shape, right? And if you read more than you work out, you're still out of shape. So you got to cultivate the balance. So you see a lot of people when they go to prison, a lot of them, their spirit is right. They working on themselves. They doing their push-ups. They doing their edification. They in the law library to get the understanding about the civics and the politics and how to free themselves, right? So the great majority of people, man, that's what it's all about. It's all about leveling up on the mental level. So I'm gonna get to another question. I keep hearing. I'm not sure what that is, but I can get back to this question if you give me some type of some context to it. I guess he didn't have nothing to say, but I appreciate the super chat. All right, we're gonna get to some more questions. But the level up in itself is all about working on yourself. You can't just be so subjected to, relying on crystals and relying on things that basically doesn't really have intrinsic value. You can always upgrade your physiology. You know what I'm saying? That's what it's all about. Upgrade the mental and upgrade your body. So that's where we want to shift the whole paradigm when it comes to that mindset. Trying to get to the questions, but it's not showing me nothing. Okay. Like I said, we going to answer some questions. Okay, I think we got another super chat here. What would be attacked by the deities and physical third? Now, I just answered the question. When you're talking about the infiltration of these archonic forces that don't take corporeal form, what's happening is it's one of those things where the whole process is all about upgrading your mental faculties to where you're no longer subjected by the holonomic brain theory, which is the conscious energy grid that connects you to the grid system of third density. So soon as you think outside the box, that's what they're talking about. Because when you look at the geometrical shape of planet Earth, when you're talking about the platonic solids, a hexahedron is basically the embodiment of planet Earth because it's made up of carbon, right? So in order to break out of that mental prison, right, because we are light body trapped inside of a light prism, which is a prison. So when you break free mentally, that's when you're able to tap into the higher dimensions for astral travel and things of that nature. So like I said, these entities that don't take corporeal form, they won't be able to attack you because your frequency is so high. So this is the same concept when you see something, when you see molecules and atoms, and when they speed up in vibration, it basically extracts the negative energy. So that's what planet Earth is actually doing. Anything that's basically cancerous to the planet is getting extracted, right? So that's what the Great Awakening process, when you're talking about the galactic shift, right? Because we all know when you understand and you study the perceptual circle of the equinox, the Draconian star constellation was basically controlling everything under the Draconian constitution by way of the Piscean energy, the Taurus energy, and the Aries energy, which is the age of mankind. And the age of mankind was basically the clay age. The clay age is the embodiment of the lunar cycle, right? Because when you get to the inception point of the first sun cycle, right, everything was matriarchal. Everything was facilitated by a republic. And a republic is for the people. So that's why the United States government, right, is a corporation. Uniform Commercial Code, Title 18, Section 3002. The United States of America denotes ownership of a certain demographic of people, which is why you call a citizen. meaning that you're basically a municipal slave to the demonstrative government. So that's why I said it's imperative to understand civics, because it works in tandem with metaphysics and spirituality. Because if you don't know one, you don't know the other, right? So, do you have any future? Let me see what Catalea said. He said, do you have any future books? I'm actually gonna put out a big publication. It's gonna be one big book, and it's gonna be called The Sacred Book of the Chosen. And it's gonna be one of those books where it's gonna be like it's gonna be an ontological artifact. It's gonna be something that you want to keep, because the way I'm gonna present it is gonna look like a big sacred book, like some Harry Potter type shit. It's gonna be a really nice. The presentation is gonna look really good. So when I put that book out, it's really gonna give you the steps of self-realization and how to do, ancient Kemetic rituals on how to tap into the chosen one energy. So I got that coming out probably at the top of next year. And I'm going to get some, eventually some shirts made too in the future. So let me see. But yeah, the shirt go crazy. Yeah, shout out to the master teacher, Noble Ali, who was doing his edification to free the people by way of the Moorish paradigm. Let me see. We got some more questions. Like I said, a lot of people don't be wanting me to go live. And now that I go live, ain't nobody got no questions. Because like I said, this is one of those things you can ask me anything. What are your thoughts on voting? Should we vote? Okay. My bad. It's not the right question. Okay. Just me and Rod Hayes, we talked on the phone for about 3 hours yesterday. And when you understand that voting, this is what they do when it comes to democracy. Democracy is a form of the extraction of Babylonian blood magic. Because when you participate in fraud, you can't claim injury to the system, right? So the injury in itself is the Babylonian blood magic that is facilitated by the Jesuit oath, right? And the Jesuit oath is being facilitated and galvanized by the Khazars, and the Khazars are the Ukrainian mafia, right? Because when you look at the Khazarian Tamga, the Khazarian Tamga is the same as the Ukrainian crest, which is the sigil of Lucifer. So these beings who run the whole corporate infrastructure of democracy is basically derived from ancient Babylon, right? So democracy in itself, this is why they propagate this is why they propagate voting to Black people when it comes to democracy, because democracy is the epitome of Black degradation. They're not for reconstruction. You don't get restitution, reparations. You don't get justice within the factions of democracy and liberalism, right? Because as I was telling you before, you got to study etymology. Where does the word democracy come from? It means demonic rulership. When you look at the suffix of the word krasi, it means kratos. Kratos is father time, right? Because we're trapped in time. We're trapped in an artificial time analysis mechanism. We're trapped in a time loop of consciousness to where you can't think outside the box, right? Because when you look at planet Saturn, they have the cube of Saturn on top. And the cube of Saturn extracts subatomic particles of energy, right? To where you're subjected to the energy extraction matrix. So planet Earth is basically a loose farm to extract the energy of the chosen ones and the chosen people who belong to this planet, right? That's what it's all about. So fasting is another way to speed up your vibration. But I'm going to get back to the voting thing, though, because like I said, voting is how voting and reparations and things of that nature is the carrot on the stick. That's what it is. It's a trap. It's another way to trap you to the artificial construct of democracy, right? So all this stuff, like I said, if you don't understand the historical context of where democracy came from, because the demo system in 1833 was being engineered by the secret treaty of Verona. That was the inception point of when patriarchy basically reversed the polarity of a republic and transmuted the matriarch into a patriarchal civilization. That's what it was all about. That's what the secret treaty of Verona was all about, right? That's how they infiltrated us. That's how they created ecclesiastical law. That's the embodiment of their system. So when you vote, you're voting yourself right back into the caste system of democracy, right? Which makes you non-descendable because you don't have no type of political allegiance, right? Because when you have political allegiance, that ties you to the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that tells you to the Indigenous People Act, because your etheric cord connects you to the planet, which gives you a nationality. Because the word nationality comes from the word nativity. Nativity is your birthright to the planet, right? Which is why when you're talking about the headdress of a Moor, we wear the fez. The fez is a funnel of energy, and the tassel represents 720 degrees of knowledge. That 720 degrees of knowledge is equated to the fact that your etheric cord, the etheric frequency, is what connects you to this land. Because in the beginning of the precessional circle of the equinox, the sun cycle, right? It was a fifth dimensional civilization. Everything was based on etheric energy, right? And you write about that. They use your voting. That voting is the voltage. They use it. It's an energy extraction. But like I said, it's one of those things where they have to galvanize the, how can I say it? The blacks who are indoctrinated. They have to galvanize those individuals in order to create this illusion. They want to keep the loop going. That's what it's all about. But like I said, just like I told Rod Hayes last night, you cannot have a democracy in a matriarch, because the matriarch is the embodiment of the sun cycle, right? That's what it's all about. When the sun cycle, everything that's being controlled by the sun cycle is matriarchal. Matriarchal civilizations were fifth dimensional civilizations. This is why you had Tartaria, you had Atlantis, the land of Mu, right? I'm gonna get to this. I appreciate you, Queen. Appreciate the love. Shout out to you. I appreciate that.
Going through a little change, but I appreciate everyone who's been supporting. And we got ourselves the one and only Life Path 7, BDELL1014. And we're going in, we're talking about, melanin. We're talking about the heat. We're talking about the sun, the saunas, on the importance of saunas. And we're also going a little bit down the rabbit hole when it comes to things esoteric type, movies. But, going forward, BDELL, you said for women or anyone who's emotional to use their navigation system.
Yeah.
Does that mean use it as a what?
Yeah, use your emotions as a navigation system. That's how you got to use it. You got to use it to navigate through the matrix, not to be subjugated by the matrix. Because what's the first thing women do, you know what I'm saying, or anybody who doesn't have their emotions intact, the first thing they do when they get in a relationship, they busting car windows, they slashing tires, they throwing tomatoes at you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. They doing anything that's basically diabolical, because like I said, your emotions is going to deceive you every time. They're going to deceive you. Right. Because this is how you know emotions is not in a state of righteousness, because it becomes toxic. A person would tell you that the sky is green if the color blue hurts their feelings. Because like I said, your feelings is acclimated to a certain emotion. So by way of the emotional energy, it becomes a form of toxicity, because then you believe in things that don't make sense. You say things that don't make sense. You do things that don't make sense, which is a form of demonic possession. So by way of the emotional energy emotions that's connected to the energy of the moon, the lunar cycle, this is where these entities are able to control you within the simulation by way of the emotional energy that's connected to the physical plane and materialism on planet Earth.
Yeah, I asked that question because astrologically, you got some people who are water signs who naturally they emotional, they get moody, or sometimes people can't control that emotions that they feel. They get moody, they get a little bit jealous, they get envy. you know, they get sad, depressed, sentimental. Like they said, water signs are more sentimental, meaning like they're a little bit more darker, you know. So I had to ask that question just to help, you know, my fellow water sign friends get out of those traps, you know, because myself, I feel good when I'm in a logical state. I know I can study, I can research, I can think things, I can solve problems, that practicality. Whereas if I'm in an emotional state, everything's chaos. Emotions is chaos. It's chaotic. When you're emotional,
You ain't text me back. Like, bro, she's at work. You know she at work. You know, logic would tell you she's not on break, bro. She's at work. You know what I'm saying? But emotional man, she ain't text me back. She must be with another dude. Like, you ain't supposed to be thinking like that. That's an effeminate energy. That's why I told you, by way of the emotional energy, like I said, it subjugates us on a spiritual level. So, like I said, that's what, you know, the propagation of right knowledge, when you're talking about Dr. Malachi Z. York, right knowledge is the epitome of righteousness. Right knowledge is logic, sound right reasoning. So when you're not operating in sound right reasoning, you're operating from a place of emotion. When you're operating from a place of emotion, that's where demonic entities are able to control you. You know what I'm saying? They be like, oh man, she ain't text me. But, you know, that's, you know, you're not supposed to be operating like that, bro. You're supposed to be looking at everything from a very rational standpoint.
Yeah. They say blue is good for that too.
What
blue is wearing blue crystals.
That's my favorite color.
Oh blue yeah.
Color. Mm-hmm.
Wow, I like blue too. I love y'all get some blue crystal. Blue is real good for you, obviously on communication, but also calming, just calming things down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what about people who say, you know, being, you know, toxic masculine? They say that you can be too logical to where, you know, you have a woman and she's saying, yo, you're not emotionally available. You're not here for me. You get a lot of this. Because I've got this myself. I've heard other guys say that women will be like, they're emotional. Women will tell a guy that you're emotionally unavailable. You're never open.
That's a good question. That's a good question.
Do you feel like a man can be too logical?
No, because logic is going to put you in the right state of mind every time. Because this is what logic does. Like, you're able to delineate, okay, if I'm in, like, this is what if I'm in a room full of women, if I'm in a room full of hoes, by way of my emotional energy, I'm going to be subjugated by that nature, because I'm not operating from a place of consciousness to where I supersede my nature to where I'm not going to cheat on my woman. Right? So that's what emotions do. So now, like, when you do have a consciousness, that activates right knowledge. So when you activate right knowledge, now I supersede my nature to not go fuck on another woman because I'm tapped in. I'm not going to, you know, because I know logically I have a good woman at home, so I'm not going to sacrifice my emotions for a good time. I'm not going to sacrifice a good thing for a good time.
Wouldn't that be hormones though? Because if you want to sleep with another woman, wouldn't that be you having that sexual urge?
Yeah, it's still an emotion. It's still
an emotion.
It's all acclimated to emotions. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's all connected to your feelings. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? It's all connected to it. You know what I'm saying? So that's what it's all about. It's one of those things where you gotta be conscious enough to where you supersede your nature. That's mastery. Mastery is righteousness. Everything in the universe moves on a logistical order. Anything that operates in logic and rationality has an order to it, has boundaries. If you don't have any boundaries, you're not spiritual. You know what I'm saying? If you're not able to have discipline, you're not spiritual. You know what I'm saying? Because that's where you supersede your nature. So what I tell people all the time, they think that, oh, Black Lives Matter, I love everybody. That's not spirituality. Right. That's false.
You mind if I say one experience?
What?
So I had an experience where, you know, I met a woman like 2 months ago, and you know, she's spiritual, a Reiki healer, you know, she does it all, but she's, you know, sexually liberated. So she believes that, you know, everyone deserves the love, you know. So she was she told me that, you know, that's just part of her nature, that she's just sexually liberated.
No,
And
see,
she said love is unconditional, but you got conditional love. You got conditional love, you got unconditional love. And she was basically saying she's on the highest. But I was like, what? I didn't understand it. But what do you have to say about that?
see, the thing is, this is where people in the conscious community, they begin to negate scientific evidence through analytical data. So now, when you look at a sexually liberated woman, right? A sexually liberated woman is a masculine woman, and I'm gonna prove it to you, because you know she may operate in her femininity according to the aesthetic, but she's operating from a place of masculinity, because when you sleep with a lot of men, that creates a microchimerism. A microchimerism is basically the personification of warrior sperm. So when you sleep with many different men because you're sexually liberated, what happens is the microchimerism travels up to the brain and rewires the neurotransmitters. Once it rewires the neurotransmitters, that's when you get the whole concept of thinking like a man. Because if you understand, all women who lay down with a lot of dudes, what they do, they think like men. All right, I need to get me somebody else tonight. I need to go lay down with this. I need to go lay down with that one. So when you also understand the esoteric word of the prefix of the word liberation, which is liber. Liber is a demonic entity. So to be sexually liberated is to be sexually demonic.
Wait. You said liberal is a demonic entity?
Liber, like liberation, the suffix of the word, the prefix of the word liberation comes from the word. So
bro,
sexually liberated. Yeah. So you got to get into the words like
crazy, bro.
Yeah. So you got to. So one thing people got to understand is like that's what spirituality is. It's all about not being tricked. You don't get tricked by once you study the etymology of certain words, when you get into the science. So you can't negate science. So like I said, when you understand the science and you compile it with spiritual rituals and stuff like that, that's when you tap into your true power. But like I said, it has nothing to do with, just, oh, I love everybody, I'm liberated. That's false light. You know what I'm saying? True spiritual people are very stern. They they cultivate boundaries so much to the point because they understand that energy transfer is real. Anybody who understands the mechanisms of energy transfer, they will know that, hey, I ain't finna lay down with this person because he probably got his nervous system is probably compromised. You know what I'm saying? Even worse, I forgot what they call it. He might have a chemical imbalance. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's gonna throw off my pH balance. Like, there's a multitude of things. You know what I'm saying? So
acidic levels, right?
Yeah,
right.
Because you know what I'm saying. You got some women.
They might have an STD. I mean,
yeah, but here's the thing, though. You got a lot of women, who are sexually liberated, and they negate that, a lot of these dudes, man, they eating Big Macs. They, you know what I'm saying, they eating all the McDonald's. So what is that doing to your womb? You know what I'm saying? That's like putting, that's like putting some lawnmower gas, some lawnmower oil inside of a BMW. You know what I'm saying? Like, you letting anybody, you know what I'm saying? You let any type of oil just get up in, you know what I'm saying, your womb. You let anything just get up in you. Anything? Because you sexually liberated. Really? That's what I said. Yeah. Spirituality is about superseding your nature by cultivating boundaries. You got to have boundaries, and you got to have discipline.
Yeah. Boundaries. I like how you say that. I really like how you said that. I was talking to myself, and boundaries allows people to. It allows you to protect your energy more, and allows you to filter who comes into your life.
So some people to be like, I'm just saying, because I've been around them, like especially like the ones that are, the liberals, the liberal type of women, like they got the whole aesthetic, they either have the nappy fro, and they have the blonde hair, and they got the septum piercing, and then they got the crystals, and then they doing yoga, and they hang out with everybody, and you know what I'm saying, they
Right. There's a lot of those.
like, I'm a
Yeah.
Christian, I'm this, I'm that, I'm for the colorful flag rights. They do everything. You know what I'm saying? That's not that's not true liberation. Like I said, that's false light. Anytime you
Also,
see somebody who's tapped into the aesthetic of that energy, that's demonic possession, bro. Because like I said, true spiritual energy is where you establish boundaries. You got a lot of shit that's
so you
within this
start
world.
you start seeing how serious it is.
Yeah. Because
This
you know
shit
what
is serious.
I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah. And that's where I think it goes into, like, they say liberal is also worldly. If you are if you're sexually liberated, you're just a worldly person. I mean, you're just a part of the world. And you also don't see how serious it is, because you have, like, isn't like 50% of the world casual, superficial, short pace, short term in the cities, club life. You got most of those people who are on a casual, superficial level, or what you want to call surface level. But once you start to really wake up, I agree on you, because you start to see things that you should take it serious. Like, everything you put in your body, you should take it serious. You should take the person that you sleep with serious. Whereas a casual person, they like, man, life, freedom, freedom, life, freedom, freedom. They
Like
might.
I've seen spiritual women. I've seen spiritual women, so-called spiritual women. They lay down. They messing with cops. You know what I'm saying? They don't care. It's like they just like, well, he has good energy, so I'm gonna talk to him. You know what I'm saying? They messing with Freemasons. You know what I'm saying? They doing all types of stuff. They have no type of boundaries. They just messing with people based on the energy that they feel at that moment of time. I feel like energy, you know what I'm saying? Like, but energy in itself can be deceptive if you're not in your right state of mind, to where you're able to see beyond the illusion and the bullshit that's being facilitated by the simulation. So it's one of those things where, you got to activate the supreme spiritual eye to read energy. That's what's, you know what I'm saying? Because once you're able to truly read energy by being logical, not emotional, but logical, once you're able to truly read energy, that's when you tap into the esoteric language of, okay, I'm not seeing these people, you know what I'm saying, based on what they look like or how they look. I'm reading their energy now. You know what I'm saying? Now you can go in a room and you can basically read the room just by reading the energy. Oh, I don't belong here. These ain't my people. You know what I'm saying? You don't need a damn book to read to understand that.
So you feel like spiritual women, do you feel like they should show their bodies a little bit, as that just makes them feel more free? Or do you feel like they should cover up? Because a lot of people will say, like, a traditional spiritual woman should cover up a little bit more. What do you think?
I think you should cover up, to be honest, because being dressing scantily clad and highly promiscuous, I should say, it's all connected to a form of patriarchy. Patriarchy is the epitome of the exploitation of sexual energy. So, with that being said, your sexual energy is supposed to be used for spiritual purposes. Because as I told you before, if women are able to control their sexual energy by way of the aesthetic and by way of actually doing the course of having sex, that energy you can control and manipulate the weather with it. So like I said, it's one of those things where women have to, control their sexual energy, control their sexual nature in order to tap into their true power. You know what I'm saying?
That's why I learned that.
Okay, go ahead.
I was gonna say you're right on controlling that, because I've seen some women let the sexual energy control them. I didn't realize that sexual energy is uncontrollable in women. Like, it can, if they start letting going crazy, it starts to control them. They start to look at it as power. I've heard certain women tell me that sex magic is very powerful, which it has its part, but they'll use it literally every day, and they'll convince.
They use it as an excuse. See, sex rituals. When you do a sex ritual, you're not actually supposed to release, because that cosmic energy that collaborates with the cosmic radiation of ether. When you're about to climax, when your girl having sex, y'all supposed to not release. You're supposed to use that sexual energy, and that power has so much potency to it. You're supposed to hold that energy and put your tongue at the roof of your mouth and think about things that you want to manifest, because that energy in itself, the extraction of the sexual energy, is going to connect with the ethers to where it's going to be in a state of manifestation. Because once you change your mindset, you change your reality, and that reality becomes a form of magnetism. So that magnetism in itself is how you cultivate your sexual energy, by changing up your mindset about what sex is. You're supposed to use sex for manifestation. So this is how you can create a baby. You can create your own reality by way of your sexual energy when you're tapped into it.
Okay, so that particular individual, they also said that a man semen retention doesn't work for everyone. Do you think this is true, BDELL?
Nah. He just, like I said, he's an emotional man. So one thing people see, that's only acclimated to males. There's a diametrical difference between a male and a man. Now, a male is an individual who hasn't mentally and spiritually fortified himself enough to become a man, because he's not able to supersede his nature to where he doesn't have the discipline to where he doesn't have sex with a lot of women. Right? So that's all based upon mental discipline. Mental discipline, that is basically the whole epitome of mastery. Once you master your sexual energy, once you master anything that's connected to external stimulation, that's when you tap into your true power. Same thing with the woman. A woman, there's a diametrical difference between a woman and a female. A female is an individual who hasn't emotionally fortified herself enough to be a woman.
So you said that a woman, she can control, the weather grid when they hold their sexual energy. What about a man? What can he do when he holds his sexual energy?
He can create. He's able to create. So like I said, because your sexual energy is connected to the ethers. So because your sexual energy is how you raise up that kundalini energy that sits at the base of the spine. And it goes into the 34th ventricle of the brain, and it activates the hypothalamus gland, which is the master gland, the crown chakra. So that sexual energy is booming out of the crown chakra and collaborating with the ethers.
This is pretty advanced.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Yeah,
it's a little advanced. Like, some people know about this, some people don't, but people don't understand that our bodies are like, we can fast, we can sweat, we can, meditate, we can astral project, we can remote view, we could do a lot of things that people don't really know about. But NPC thinks that
it's crazy though, because it's not a coincidence. I just got to download. It's not a coincidence that what they call sex in pornography, they call it XXX. XXX, you know what I'm saying? I think that's acclimated to the chromosomal structure of who we are on this planet. Because with the woman, she got 2 X chromosomes. And I think initially, this is just my opinion, not based on nobody's research. This is just, probably won't find it in the book or whatever. This is just based on my opinion. I believe that when a woman is tapped into her true divine energy, she has the ability to activate another X chromosome, where she has 3 X chromosomes, because the woman is the true spiritual device on the planet.
Right. They have that. They have that Eve gene that they have that Eve gene that we don't have.
But that's just my opinion. So it's not a coincidence, because they could have called it. Why they didn't call pornography ZZZ? Why they call it XXX? Why is that? They could have called it any other letter in the alphabet.
You're right. Yeah, you are right with that.
So yeah, that's just my perspective on that.
Wow, that is crazy. Going deeper, how long do you feel like a man should hold his energy? Do you feel like he should go with the flow, or you feel like he should hit like a 3-year mark, take a break?
No,
what's your recommendation?
Because when you put certain timestamps and mandations on anything that's connected to the material plane, because as I told you before, time is an artificial construct. So it's one of those things where you got to go with the flow of the energy. If you feel like it's right for you and you have the discernment to decipher and use your intuition, I feel like I can lay down with that one. Like, you know, you got to use your, like I said, use your emotions as a navigation system. You can't just be like, you know, in 5 months, I'm going to release. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, because sometimes, expectations lead to devastation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So you never put like no mandations on nothing. Just gonna just be like when I go on a fast, I don't be like, man, I'm gonna fast for this amount of days. I'm be like, I'm just fast until I tap out. I'm just because some people, like I said, you know, I don't eat every day. Some days I just be like the same thing. It's like that's how you control your emotions because you're not subjugated by time. Because some people feel like there's a time to do everything. Some people really eat 3 meals a day because they supposed to. Oh, I'm supposed to eat lunch at 12 p.m. You know what I'm saying? But that's a matrix, bro. That's artificial. That's something that came along with the simulation.
That's social norms.
Yeah,
that's
those are social.
Yeah, that's following social norms.
Break out of the social norms by way of tapping into the true spiritual energy by going with the flow of the energy of the planet. So what happens is, what I do is, I eat when I feel like it. I don't care what time it is. If I'm hungry at that time, or if I'm not, I only eat when my body tells me to eat something. I don't eat because it's 5 p.m. We're supposed to be having supper. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I used to use the Zero app, fasting apps, but I stopped using all those apps. I just started fasting off, you know, the naked eye, just off my gut. You know, when I feel like it, that's when I'll eat. That's when I eat. That's when I break it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's better when you do it like that.
Mm-hmm. That's the best way. That's the best time. You know, that's the best way you tap into your energy. You know what I'm saying? To where you're not subjugated by the societal norms, to where you break free from the energy extraction matrix, which is cultivated by a form of a simulation, to where it creates, you know, artificial constructs of time. So everything in this realm is basically artificial and superficial. So it's one of those things, like I said, it's one of those things where, you know, it creates a certain perception. Like, you know, just like this is the whole epitome of a matrix. You know, you graduate high school, you go to college, you graduate college, get a big house, white picket fence, you get married, you know, you go on vacations, and you know, you got the dog, you got 2 kids, a boy and a girl. Like those are thought forms of the matrix system. You know, that's how you break free when you see beyond the illusion, because all that stuff is galvanized by the energy of time.
Yeah. It pisses some of us off. Just the seeing the social norms, seeing how everything is just like school, college, work, school, college, work. It's like
you become a robot. Like you,
right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, get up, gotta go to work. You know what I'm saying? Even though I work, but you know what I'm saying? Like, I have a lot more flexibility because I told you, I don't think I told you, but I'm an engineer. I'm a thermal engineer. So, so it's not one of those things where I'm not being micromanaged, or you know, I don't have somebody. Like, I do what I'll do. I'm on my phone when I want to be on my phone.
Right. You have that freedom.
I have freedom. You know what I'm saying? So, because if I had like a regular 9 to 5 and I'm sitting at a desk all day, I would have been tapped out the matrix a long time ago. You know what I'm saying? But like I said, with me, you know what I'm saying, still working, I use it as a navigation system, and I also use it as a form of, because I'm to the point now when it comes to consciousness and spirituality, I'm to the point where I want to build things. I want to build things that combats the energy that subjugates us on a spiritual level. So that's why a lot of times, like, you know, I take mental notes on the things that I build at work and stuff that I do at work, because all those things are basically incorporated into how you build certain spiritual monolithic structures. You know what I'm saying? That's a form of engineering, spiritual engineering. So the same thing, I want to actually start building stuff. You know what I'm saying? I want to get into that. I want to, you know what I'm saying, create an invention or something, you know what I'm saying, to where I can, you know, produce some type of free energy. That's the mindset I'm at. So that's going to be my next goal for within the next, you know, 5 years. I want to create something to where I don't want to just talk. I want to do something. So with me being an engineer, it constantly understands the mechanisms of what certain machines and certain additives and certain things, you know, to where you can create something. So
right.
what I'm doing.
I mean, it makes sense that
Yeah.
you are an engineer because you to be an engineer, you have to be like really hands on, right?
Oh yeah, yeah, most definitely.
Yeah. It make I definitely see that. So going on to the next question, do you work out your core like when you
Oh
go
yeah,
to the gym?
yeah. Oh yeah, most
So
definitely.
what do you think about the core being like that heater of your body? You can use your core. A lot of people say like you got to work out your core when you go to the gym because your core is like really responsible for really heating up your body and heating up also that melanin because it
Mhm.
gets hot. What do you think about that?
Yeah, because when you activate the core, it activates the solar plex, and the solar plex is the foundation of the candida enzyme. So when you activate the candida enzyme, that's how you activate the lymphatic system, to where you
Mm,
flush out all certain energies that's basically impure to the body. So it creates a thermogenic, and the thermogenic, as I broke down the nomenclature title of ether. Ether is electrical energy, thermodynamics, hydrodynamics, electromagnetic radiation, and resonant energy, which is the foundation of antimatter. Antimatter is the carbon. So when you activate all those things, you activate the thermogenic principle within the solar plex. Solar plex is going to help you activate everything within your genetical structure. It heats up the body because I feel like when I'm working out, when I'm doing like crunches and stuff,
yeah,
my body gets so hot. You know what I'm saying? This is
yeah. That's
working
why I
out.
love working out. Yeah, like some people don't work out their core. They might do legs, upper body, all types of things, but they forget the core. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
your core gives you strength to do a lot of the daily things. You know what I'm saying? Keeps your posture better. That's why the core is like, even like if you look at the ship, the core of the ship is what really keeps it going. That's like the brain. So when you work out your core, you're working out the brain. Like you said, you're
Yeah,
working out
yeah,
certain.
that's a fact. Yeah, we got three brains. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You got the stomach, you got the heart, because the heart, when you study neurocardiology, it has neurons in it. And plus, the magnetic field of the heart is 1,000 times more intrinsic than the magnetic field of the brain, because the heart sends messages to the brain by way of intuition.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's yep.
Mm-hmm. So there is a metaphysical connection to that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, working out your core is very metaphysical. A lot of the times, I recommend us watching or any brothers and sisters watching, if you do want to get through some problems, just do a core workout. You'll be surprised how a core workout can really make you get through some problems. Because what you're doing, you're burning away all that energy stuck. Because we get emotions stuck in our core. We get emotions stuck in
Facts.
our body, and sometimes it gets stuck in our core. So when you work out your core, you're like you're like lighting your core on fire.
Mm-hmm.
And you already know fire just burns through
So,
things.
mm-hmm.
You said to
And
move
then
your soul.
I said putting that torch to the soul, it activate,
Yeah.
igniting the soul.
Yep.
Oh yeah, one thing I want to tell people, it's important. Uh, During the time of the solar eclipse, you should also detox and fast.
Okay.
Try, if you can, try to go do no food. If you feel like you do have to eat, do like some smoothies, some juicing during the time of the solar eclipses.
When
The
is the next
next
solar eclipse?
April 8th.
Okay.
Fast and don't eat nothing, and then go to these ancient sites that you have in your city. You got mounds. Some cities got pyramids. So if I lived in Atlanta, if I lived in Georgia, I'd go to Stone Mountain during the solar eclipse. Fast, go to Stone Mountain. But where I'm going to go, we got mounds. This place called Angel Mounds, and the mound is basically a micro version of a pyramid.
Mm,
That's basically what it is. So if you want to absorb these energies that's coming in, because a solar eclipse is the return of the ancestral energy. That's what a solar eclipse is. That's what it
wow.
basically is. So in order to receive that energy from the ancestors, it's one of those things where you gotta make make your vessel open to it. You know what I'm saying? And do it with, you know what I'm saying? And if you can, if you're single, you know what I'm saying, go in and do it by yourself. But if you got a counterpart, you know, get a divine feminine or get a divine masculine, and y'all go out and meditate or something, and so y'all can receive these energies coming in from the solar eclipse. Because like I said, you when you watch the movie, the third Matrix movie, the newest one that came out, in order for Neo to get to the next level, he needed that divine feminine in order for him to pull himself out the Matrix. So the divine feminine and the divine masculine, they got to work in tandem. They got to work in synergy in order to leave this realm. That's what they got to do. So the same thing actually takes place when you're absorbing these energies that's coming in from the solar eclipse.
Yeah,
So,
I had made a video back and I said that, you know, you find the right divine feminine, she makes you make sound decisions because, you know, their intuition when they're more evolved is on point. Like our intuition as a man, even me, I'm spiritual. I meditate every day, but a woman who meditates every day, she still got that. Like she still got that E gene. You know what I'm saying? So her intuition is gonna supersede mine's. You know what I'm saying? So when you get the evolved woman, you got someone who's also reading between the lines of every decision you're making.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
So like I said, man, it's one of those things where you just got to get the right woman to do that stuff with, because we living in a time right now by way of instant gratification. The woman, she is subjected to the sleep spell because, you know, her emotions is connected to everything as far as like material. So you got to get a woman who is able to understand the art and the principle of detachment. Because when you understand that mechanism, you know, that's when you can tap into your true spiritual energy to where you're not subjugated on a material level. So that's why you got to get a woman. It's very hard nowadays to find a woman who isn't, she's not brainwashed. She's not a brainwashed sheep that's going along with the societal norms of the matrix system. So once you find a woman like that, you got to keep her, bro. I made a post about that, you know, yesterday on Facebook.
Yeah, don't if you effort with that woman, bro. I don't think you're gonna like. You might find another one, but maybe like 5 years, you know. But it's hard to find highly developed, evolved women, bro. That's a fact.
Especially in the location where I'm at. Most of the women where I'm at, they're fast asleep because the city where I'm at is more. It's really conservative. It's a mixed city. It's one of those things where a lot of people here, they're not tapped into the authenticity of true spiritual energy. It's either they're just, everybody here is a Christian or they're Christians, and so it's kind of hard for you to, you know, find a woman who isn't tapped into true spirituality. So that's why I said,
do you feel like you can maybe transition a woman to become spiritual if you find a Christian woman?
So I'm a firm believer of not manipulating people's timeline.
Okay, so you don't want to like change her beliefs.
Yeah, I don't do that. That's like I don't do what Christians do. Christians, they be like, "Come on, convert to Jesus. You going to hell." I don't do stuff like that. Like you wouldn't know. A person wouldn't know what I know unless they actually like came up to me and talked to me. I don't go around talking to people like this is how I know that, you know, I'm tapped into my true divine purpose, because I'm not a person that actually gets on camera. Like it took me a lot when I made my first video. It took me a lot, like, but some tell me like, you are sitting on information. It's time to make videos.
Right. But we were talking about that.
Yeah.
You being a 7-2.
Yeah, I'm very quiet. A lot of people, you know what I'm saying? Some people like who live in my city, who grew up with me or whatever, they know that I'm very quiet. And some people are like, man, you got YouTube? Like, I'm like, if I'm one of those people, like if I'm in a room, you wouldn't even know I'm in there. That's how quiet I be. But you know what I'm saying? But because of, you know, by way of social media and for me to put out the edification, you wouldn't know that because I got to talk to people, you know what I'm saying? Like, so sometimes for me, you know what I'm saying, I'm still dealing with it. I take breaks in between when I'm putting out videos because it's so energy draining for me to be speaking, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes I'd be like, man, like, I need to chill out, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not even a talkative person like that, you know, so.
Yeah. So you're saying You as a seven, and you get drained when you speak a lot.
No, I wouldn't say I get drained when I speak a lot. It's just energy draining because you dealing when you get on the screen, you're dealing with multiple energies, man. You get people watching you, bro. Like
Right, right. You don't know who's watching. Right, right.
it's
Yeah,
it's an
yeah.
amalgamation of energy. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So, and then you're just dealing with other external forces on top of that. So, like I said,
right.
that's how I know. Like I'm one of those people, man. Like somebody come up talking to me in person, I try to cut the conversation quick because I'm an
Yeah,
introvert. I don't like talking to people.
yeah.
Like
That's how it
yeah,
is too. Facts, facts. Yeah.
yeah, I'm an
You gotta have just like Divine Insight said. You gotta have heart to put yourself out there. You do. You gotta have a certain
introvert.
heart, a certain sacrifice. And even going to Divine Insight, he also did say one thing about the cold. Anything cold is bad. This is why troll when they aim, they say freeze. You
Yeah.
ever notice how they say that?
Mhm.
Did you ever study the etymology of that?
Nope. See, I
Yeah,
haven't studied that. Nope.
that's something that that's an insight he found out, and I was like,
But
damn.
there's something connected to it. But I am the epitome of an introvert. I don't have a lot of friends by choice. You know what I'm saying? I just don't. My dad, you know what I'm saying, the way I grew up, he always told me to create my own autonomous infrastructure by being a loner. Because when you
Mhm.
become a loner, that puts you in alignment to where you become a leader and not a follower. So I don't hang out with a lot of people. You know what I'm saying? Because I believe in energy transfer. You hang out with five bums, you're gonna be the sixth one. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? So it's one of those things where I just do I always did my own thing. I just don't do what other people do. You know what I'm saying? Like I just the way I grew up. That's the way I was socialized growing up as a child. You know what I'm saying? Like I grew up with my dad. You know what I'm saying? So
Right. Do you feel like hot showers are bad?
uh it depends.
Okay. Okay.
It depends. Like, and the reason I say it depends because when you take a hot shower, especially like with the water and everything being compromised, hot water has the ability to cause the expansion of the skin cells to open up until now you're receiving all that poisonous water and it's going in your skin. So cold showers is actually more of a healing modality. So if you take cold showers after you work out, it'll help you peel off a lot more calories and fat. Also, you ever heard of cryotherapy?
No, I heard of hydrotherapy where you go from cold hot, but not what is that?
Cryotherapy is when you just like sit in like a little, it's like a little incubator and it freezes the body up a little bit. You actually
Ooh,
extract a lot more calories doing that than if the body was heated up during a workout.
wow.
Yeah. So it's you know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where it's kind of like you got to mess with it. You got to tweak it a little bit.
Yeah.
So, yep. Because it's also connected to chronokinesis, because where you able to manipulate and freeze time. Because if you pay attention to people, like the movie Avatar, when he froze himself for 100. He didn't freeze himself. He got froze for 100 years. He looked just like the same person he was 100 years ago. He was a little boy. So the same
Wow.
thing actually takes place with the body. It basically regenerates the cells.
Mm,
Yep.
that's a crazy process.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna
So I,
answer some.
so I think so I think so I think these extraterrestrial species, they actually use probably like the code and stuff for they use cryotherapy for like for genetical self-preservation. They didn't use it for, I'm going to use the cold weather to subjugate the spiritual energy of the planet. You know what I'm saying? That by way of HARP and weather modification. But I think that they actually did it on a micro level when you're talking about healing the body. They only used it for healing purposes. As
Mm,
far as like code, that's just my opinion.
I realized because you ever heard of human design?
Who?
Human. It's called human design.
Oh yeah, yeah, hurt. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like projectors, generators, and all that.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah, but certain if you look into human design, it will tell you the actual type of foods you should eat. And some people are not supposed to eat cold foods, and some people are supposed to eat cold foods.
Mm-hmm.
Like for me, my body, I'm not supposed to eat cold foods. I'm supposed to eat hot foods. That's why I always have like teas, soups. I might go to like, you know, like Tassili's. I might get something like, that's cold, but I might get something hot though. Anything cold does make me weaker. And that's what I realized. Yeah, because it'll tell you that your blood, it'll tell you what temperature your blood is. So if your blood is cold, you need hot foods. If your blood is hot, you need cold foods to offset that balance.
See, I'm warm. My body is usually warm all the time. Like
Okay,
anybody,
you probably need more juice, like juices and smoothies.
my body is real hot. It can be cold outside. You can still feel my body is real hot. That's how you know that people. It's in one of Dr. York's publications. That's how you're able to delineate if a person has a soul or not. Feel their hands. You know what I'm saying? If it's hot and their hands is cold or whatever. Like my body is always hot. It's hot. Like I'm not like sweating or I'm not sick or nothing, but that's just the thermal